safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
It's a stripy start to a windy, wintry day. We've kicked the gremlins away. This is Safari Live. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our sunset safari, our slightly delayed sunset safari. Luckily, the gremlins have been dispatched by Connor and Peter and the tech team, and we're out and about. Now, unfortunately, our driver started with a rather sort of sad sight, and that is our zebra female that's got a really bad injury to her stomach. You can see there's a nasty wound on the bottom of the stomach that is really dripping blood everywhere. In fact, we found blood on the road before we saw these zebras, and there was this bad wound there, and I'm not sure what's caused that. It's a difficult wound to explain because there's no sign of any claw marks around the hip area, so that poor zebra unfortunately is not going to be very happy at all. Now, my name is Tristan, and on camera today I've got Senzo, and remember that this is a live interactive safari, which means all of you, the viewers, are the most important part, and we would love to hear from all of you, whether that be questions or if you just want to say hello from wherever you're watching. Now, I'm going to try reverse a little, or actually go forward a bit for our zebra, because I'm a little bit perplexed by its wound that it has, because like I was saying to you, if it was something like lions, we would have found lots of scrapes and scars down the flanks where the lions would have grabbed onto it. And so I don't think it was that. I think it, in all likelihood, maybe that these zebra were chased by, it could be by lions or a different predator, and this zebra might have run over a stump and the stump has caught it in the stomach. That's what it almost looks like. It looks like a split that is down the middle of the stomach. Now, whether or not the zebra will survive is anyone's guess at this stage. It doesn't seem like, I was looking through the binoculars, and doesn't seem like any of the intestines are actually exposed, and so it maybe is just a muscular injury, and with time it will eventually close up. The problem that this zebra is going to have is that, as I was saying, is that it's leaving this massive blood trail everywhere, and so any predator that's out here, whether it be hyenas or lions, is going to pick up on that blood trail, and they're going to follow it to try and see what's wrong with this animal and whether or not they can hunt it. And if lions come across an animal like this, they most certainly are going to have a go, and they'll wear it down eventually and grab it, because remember, with an injury like that, there is a huge amount of infection that can come into it, and that's going to weaken the zebra and really make the zebra have a tough time out here. So hopefully it will close up fairly shortly, the blood will stop dripping, and that zebra will be okay. The nice thing about it is it's not actually on its own, even though it looks like it's by itself. There is some others fairly close by. Now, Hot Dog, you were wondering if there are any other zebras around, and they're just behind us at the moment, so they're slightly a little bit sort of behind and to the left of this zebra, but close enough that this zebra will be able to join in. You can actually see a few of their stripes there in the background, so this zebra will just make its way around back to that herd. So it's not on its own, which is a good thing, because all of those eyes and ears are going to be able to look and see and smell and be able to then detect predators and try and keep this injured zebra safe. The problem for this injured zebra is, like I said, is it's going to get weaker and weaker, and life's going to get harder. Now, it's parked itself in a very poor position that we can't really see, but what I want to do is I just want to go forward slightly, because I want to try and see if I can't find where this zebra was walking and actually show you the droplets of blood that I was talking about. I know it's a little bit of a macabre scene to see, but it is really fascinating to be able to see the drops of blood. I might have come a little bit far from where it crossed the road. So B. Wilson, you say a sad start and sorry about the zebra. Well, I know many animals survive injuries far worse than that, so it's not desperate just yet. So hopefully our zebra will be alright, and we'll end up with a situation where it will be able to sort of get into a place where it can heal up a bit and doesn't get bothered too much by predators. But I'm trying to see if I can't find where it crossed the road, but I think I drove over it all now, so we'll have to check a little bit further down the line where it came from. It's unfortunately hiding itself behind a bush, and I don't really want to go in there and cause it any distress, because ultimately when it's injured like that, it's not going to be feeling too good, and if we go out there, it's going to cause it to get an elevated heart rate, which is not really that good for the zebra. Also, what's been interesting about it is that because of the flies and things that are landing on it, it keeps grabbing at its stomach, so it turns around and it kind of bites that area because of the irritation, and just now it actually bit a piece of flesh off its stomach completely, and it kind of spat it out, but it was really quite something to actually see, and it's probably causing itself more damage by doing that than just leaving it. But shame, it's not a very pleasant wound at all, and I hope that our zebra will be okay. I can just see it's behind the tree, and I'm pretty sure that it's hiding away from us. It's just getting behind some sort of protection. There you can see it. And you see how it goes around with its neck every now and then, and that's trying to get rid of those flies that are on the stomach itself. Shame, girl. It's not very nice at all. Ali, you're asking whether the wound is infested with flies and maggots. Well, Ali, I don't think so. I think this wound is very fresh. I would imagine that if it wasn't from last night, it's been from during the day today. The amount of blood that is coming out of it is a wound that is literally just happened. It's bleeding profusely. It's not something that has had time to dry up and to coagulate the blood. So I would imagine that it was either early this morning or at least during the day today. So it's an interesting one, and I'm not quite sure what's happened to it, because like I say, there's really no sign of these zebra running. They were just ambling down the road, and there's no physical signs of predation on this particular zebra. So I don't know if it ran from something and just ran into a stump by mistake or something like that. It does happen from time to time. Zebras do, when they're in a panic and they flee, they try and go over a stump, and it might have just caught it in the stomach a little bit, and that's what caused this wound. At the end of the day, they are a heavy set animal and they weigh quite a bit, so if they make contact with a stump, there can be quite a bit of damage that's caused. But I think we're going to leave our zebra there, because like I say, I don't want to stress it out too much, and we'll try and get to the others. Caitlin, who's 10 years old. Hello, Caitlin. You want to know how old this zebra is? Well, Caitlin, I'm not sure, because zebras are very difficult to age. Once they sort of grow a little bit and they become adults, it's very hard to say how old they are. They're not like humans that can tell us their age, or they're not like kudu that gets big horns and you can judge by the size of the horns, or elephants that have tusks that you can use. So very difficult to say what age it is. It is an adult, so it could be anywhere from 4 to 10 years old, but it's really, we don't know exactly how old it is, unfortunately. But we'll be able to see the rest of the herd quite nicely. They're nicely out in the open at the moment. Let's see if we go this way. So, Snappy, you're asking why, well, do we not help the zebra, and why we wouldn't and leave it to die? Well, the thing is, Snappy, is there's two reasons for it. One is that we don't help it because that's nature. It wasn't a wound that was caused by people. If it was a piece of wire that was trapped around its leg, or there was some sort of bullet wound or something like that, then yes, we would most definitely interfere. Ultimately, this is nature, and nature has a way of working out weaker bloodlines. We don't know really what that animal is all about. It might be a weak sort of have a weak genetic code, and therefore it's being worked out of the system a little bit. Also, that zebra might make a full recovery without us interfering. If we go and we dart it and we interfere with it, at the end of the day, we're just causing a lot of problems. We might drug that animal, fix it up, and then it stands up and lions are around the corner and they grab it while it's still groggy. So these are the things that you have to think about, unfortunately, and I know it's hard sometimes to watch this, but that is the way nature works. And even if that animal was injured by lions and it really looked like it was going to die, we unfortunately can't play God with any of these animals out here. And the thing is with zebras and with lions and leopards and elephants and all these kind of things is that they have a fairly big emotional attachment to them. If you saw something like a snake or a rat that had that same wound, you wouldn't really worry about it as much. And so you need to apply a general rule to everything and try and remove the emotion from it a little bit and allow nature to take its course and to really sort of sort itself out, which is a really hard stance for us. In particular, we get very attached to these animals, and it's hard to sometimes do that, but it is the best way in the end. Our injured zebra hopefully will join up just now, and we'll be able to talk about it a little bit more when we can actually see the wound. But these are all the healthy zebra that are close by. You can see there's a female with her little one. There's a few impalas scattered around, and they really do like this area, and I'm not sure why. I've been looking around and trying to see. There is a good grass content here, so there's a lot of high quality grasses that zebra would like to eat. But remember that zebras, being hindgut fermenters, for them grass quality is not as important as something like a buffalo. So it's probably more to do with the fact that there is water not too far away from here. We have Treehouse Dam that is a little bit to our northeast, and then south of us there's quite a big dam on Hofmans that they can go to. So it's probably proximity to water, as well as the fact that it's fairly open here, and they can then be able to see some of the predators in this area should they get hunted. But you've got to love zebras. They are absolutely beautiful animals. Katie, you're asking if you can ride zebras. Well, Katie, no one's really ridden zebras for a very long time. I believe that it was tried at one point, but a zebra has a nasty temperament at the best of times, so it's not something that you want to get too close to. If you've ever seen a male zebra when he's angry and when he's fighting with another male, or even when they try to chase off things like wild dogs and hyenas, it's an animal you don't want to get anywhere near. They will bite, they will kick, they will do all kinds of things. So that, coupled with the fact that they aren't as strong as horses and donkeys, has led to the fact that no one really has gotten them tame and has utilized them in any way. So because they can't really be utilized in an effective manner, they were left to be wild, and so no one actually rides them. I definitely think I would not attempt to get on the back of a zebra. I think you would be very foolish to try to do that. At the end of the day, they might look cute and they might look very chilled, but a zebra scorned is not an animal you would want to be a part of. Now, interesting enough, a gust of wind has just come out from the south, and look at how quickly these zebras are now moving off. All of a sudden, this gust of wind came up, and they've decided that they're no longer going to stick here, and they're now moving very quickly away from this area. I wonder if maybe something didn't happen to the south that caused them to panic a bit, which could have caused this wound, and that's why when the wind kicks up from that area, they pick up a scent and they start moving quite quickly. Because you can see how all of them picked their head up immediately that wind came up and have now started to move away from us. Very interesting. Alright, zebras, well, stay safe. Don't go anywhere near any more predators. Hopefully they'll be alright. I'm going to turn around and start heading towards Treehouse Dam because I want to just have a little look at what's going on there. And after that, I'm going to try and see if I can't go and find our old friend from this morning, Mvula. I know that he was not far from the main road, and I'm pretty sure that he's going to make his way back towards Djuma, and so I want to head up that area a little bit later. It's probably a bit warm right now, even though we know that Mvula does move around quite a bit. When during the day, it's still, I think, a little bit on the warm side. Now, what I wanted to show you, actually, Senzo, is that going to be alright for you? Let's see if we'll be able to see it. There we go. So you can see that this is where the blood of that zebra is. So this is where the zebra first crossed the road, and this whole section here is all blood at the moment. So there's lots of little droplets everywhere here. We can actually even see, if I pick up this piece of grass, there was a little chunk of meat that I was talking about when she was biting. She was actually grabbing at this little piece and causing quite a bit of damage. So she needs to stop pulling at her bits on her stomach, and hopefully that will end up then healing up and being a lot better. But you can see that this has not even had time to dry yet. It's still very soft to the touch, and it is not something that has had too much time to actually sort of harden up yet. So definitely a very fresh wound. And that's what I was saying, that the hyenas and lions, if they walk along here, they're going to pick up that scent quite quickly, and they're going to be able to then start following that, and hopefully they won't actually find our zebra, and our zebra will survive. Now, Rex just came past me, and he's now going to Treehouse Dam, so that means that I'm actually going to change my route, because I'm not going to drive behind somebody in their dust. So I'll just have to turn around again. I'm going to get dizzy from all this turning around. So Faisal, you're wondering if maybe a fence could have caused that wound. Well, Faisal, I suppose it is possible, but I just don't know where a fence that low would have been for a zebra to have gotten caught up in it. It also, if it was a fence, we would probably, well, typically I would imagine we would see wounds along the leg area, along the stomach area, in places where there's potentially, you know, it's gotten caught up and tried to kick itself free. That almost looks like it's something that's hit dead center in the stomach and then ripped slightly backwards. So I don't think it could be from a fence. I mean, it's possible, maybe a fence post that was left somewhere, but I highly doubt it. I was just thinking about the lodges that are in this area, and so the only one that's actually got a fence currently is Little Gowrie, but that is it's a very different kind of fence. It's got a sort of angle onto it, and there's electric cables, and so that zebra would have got shocked long before it actually got anywhere near. Shame. I see it's just coming out now and walking away from us, but it's moving quite alright. It's not moving gingerly in any way, so I think it will be okay. There it goes. You can see all that blood dripping down, and that's what I was talking about earlier. Shame, but it's not comfortable with the vehicle around. Every time we kind of get near it, it moves away, so I'm going to leave it there and let it carry on its day and try and join the rest of the herd that was also moving in that direction. Now, as I was saying, I was going to go towards Treehouse Dam, but like I say, Rex has gone there, so I think I'm going to try and go and follow up on Mvula then now already. Stacey, you say, yay, I'm back and it's good to see me back. Well, Stacey, it's good to be back, and it's been a great 24 hours being back. I've seen 2 of my absolute favorite leopards, so that's always a great way to start off a working cycle. I've had short trunk herd, which is another one of my favorite groups of animals to follow, so I've had a wonderful time. The weather has been very nice. Well, this morning it was a little on the cold side, but the mist added so much atmosphere to what was going on. It really was quite pretty, so it's really been good to be back, and I had a very relaxing leave. It was nice to go and see my parents. My parents are busy moving down to the Eastern Cape, and I hadn't seen them since December, so it was really nice just to kind of go and catch up properly with them and spend some time and just kind of help out with the move that's happening. So it was really quite nice. It was a lot of traveling though. I drove in total, must have been close to, I don't know, just on the way back was close to 2,000 kilometers, so it was quite a long journey to get back, but very much worth it. Now it is quite cool for this time in the afternoon because we had a fairly cool start to the day. The land hasn't heated up too much and the sun is not feeling too hot, so I would imagine that animals actually will be that there was a leopard that crossed north around Twin Dams area, which I would imagine must be Tundi or Tumba. I know Tara was in that area trying to find out what's going on. I think the gremlins unfortunately are attacking her at the moment, and that's why you're staying with me for a little bit. And so she's going to try and see if she can't find anything around that area, and like I say, I'm going to try and see if I can't find anything to the north. Also, I think we'll try and pop in at the hyena den as well a little bit later. I wanted to go there this morning, but I didn't actually get a chance. I ended up getting a bit distracted by other things, and so we're going to try and see if we can't get in there and try and find Ribbon and Intima and see how they're doing. I'm sure Intima must be super spotty even in the week that I've been away. It kind of amazes me. You don't go there for 2 or 3 days, and all of a sudden there's these new spots that have come out with that little one, so hopefully it'll be spotty and it'll be as cute as ever and as active as ever. Now it sounds like Tara has fought off gremlins. She's chopped and kicked and done her thing, and she's managed to get rid of them. So let's go across so she can say hello to all of you on this delayed start. Apparently not. So Tara didn't kick the last gremlin away, and it's now jumped on again as well. So you're still with me, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it. But it's amazing, it doesn't feel like the same day, because when we finished our drive this morning, it was all overcast and grey and not really very pretty at all. And now it's beautiful. It's got sunshine, we've got blue skies. It really is very pleasant. Now, Krista, you wondering if we've checked on Janet the Janet? I think it's Janet the Janet is what Craig named it, or I'm not sure if there was any other names given to it, but we have checked on it. Janet Jackson, there we go. Alright, so we've I did actually check there this afternoon. I went past there, and I think Tara went past this afternoon too. No sign, unfortunately, but what I did notice when we went past on that particular tree is there's the lower hole where we were seeing Janet Jackson, and he was saying in that little hole, and then there's 2 holes above, and the first time I ever saw it, it actually went up towards those 2 holes. So I don't know if it's maybe accessing from those 2 upper holes and it spends time in between, and so that's why it's a little bit hit and miss when we find it, or it could be that something has disturbed that particular hideout and it's now moved and gone and found a different tree. We'll have to just keep monitoring that area and trying to see if we can't find some sort of sign of that Janet again. It was really cool to know that we could go to a tree and there was a Janet in it most days. I know it wasn't very long, but it was very cool nonetheless. Now I'm talking so much that I actually haven't even been looking, and there's some nice termite mounds as we drive along Philemon's cut line that are always good to check because they are great places for leopards to sit, and we know that Kruger used to make use of this area, Shadow makes use of this area, so it is a perfect place to have a little look around, particularly when you're looking for leopard. Now it sounds like Tara this time has managed to get rid of that last one and has squashed it, and so I'm going to stop talking quite quickly so that you can actually go and say hello.
Yeah, that was quite a battle there, I promise you. So we've tried to see if we can relocate Hosanna from this morning. Unfortunately, he looks like he moved off. He's taken the last bit of impala leg that was dangling from the acacia tree. He's taken that with him. So I had a quick drive around, but because we had no signal, I didn't think it was really worth staying there and having a really good look. We drove in the drainage line just to see if he was under a bush somewhere, but there was some very relaxed Nyala around, so I think he's moved off. I wouldn't be surprised if he's going to go and drink somewhere, because he had a nice big belly on him this morning, so once that started digesting, he's going to want to drink and even out those salts that he's been taking in from his meat. So we're back on Chitwa cut line. We're going to head north. I believe Tristan is somewhere to the west of us and heading around Treehouse Dam. So we're going to maybe try around Buffalo's Hook Dam and maybe head towards Gallagher Shortcut and just see if we can pick up any more tracks. We did have a look through the Milwati and there was quite a lot of animal movement there, so we might even just make our way there, just see if we can catch up with some giraffes and things like that. So we'll see if the direction changes. We're going to read the newspaper. There has been quite a lot of vehicle movement here, so if we've got anything crossing over, we know it's quite fresh. But we'll see how we go this afternoon. What have we got here? Ah, in the tree. I wonder if you're going to be able to see it past the branch there. Is that a good position for you? We have eagle-eyed Craig on board. I think that is quite difficult to see, isn't it? A nice silhouette of a raptor. It is quite a large bird. Say eagle size. Unfortunately, we're just in the wrong position for the sun. It looks like it's got a little crest, but difficult to say. If anyone's getting a nice view of it, maybe you can take a screenshot and brighten it up at home. But that vertical stance, it's possibly a snake eagle. I'm hearing the grey go away bird behind me. Hi Bill, and welcome on board this afternoon. For those of you who are not sure, we are live, hence fighting off gremlins in the bush. It's we never know what's going to happen. But Bill would like to know what the difference is between an eagle and a hawk. Now here in Africa, the hawks tend to be quite small compared to the eagles, and I think the way they fly as well, so the hawks tend to be more of a sickle-shaped wing, and you don't tend to see the primaries as much. But then we do have the hawk eagles, so they're a bit of a mixture of both, and then you get the eagles, and you can see the primaries really nicely. And I think for me, seeing the primaries is quite a nice distinction. So the primary feathers actually help to stop them stalling, because obviously if you think of an eagle soaring, they've got quite a slow flight, and they use the thermals. So if they just had the feathers on the wing here, they could get to a stage where there's not enough airflow, and so the fast airflow over the top of the wing actually helps them to have the lift, because then it's the airflow underneath is a lot slower, so it actually lifts the bird. So it's all to do with the aerodynamics. Now, if the wind flow is just not fast enough when they're flying, when they're soaring, they could stall and they could actually fall out the sky. So having the primaries out splayed like that, each one is like a little aeroplane wing, and that helps to keep the airflow, and it stops them, as I say, from stalling. So it's the same thing. They've got the fast airflow over the top and the slower airflow underneath, and that helps to keep them in the sky. So I'm going to drive up a little bit further and just see if we can't get another view of the raptor in the tree there. Oh, some people thinking possibly they might be able to ID it for us. Rocky saying possibly a martial eagle. Possibly it just looks that little bit small to me for a martial eagle. Chris Road, possibly a Wahlberg's. If memory serves me correctly, I think Wahlberg's are migratory, so they shouldn't be around here at the moment, but I will stand corrected. My memory's a little bit rusty on that one. Let's just see. I'm just trying to get a view through the trees here. Oh, beard, a small silhouetted crested eagle. Yeah, that's pretty much what it is. Okay, let's try here. Through there. Okay, we're out of the sun. Well, we've got the sun shining on the bird now. Let's just see. Let's have a look. And of course, the other thing I have forgotten is the feathered legs on the eagles. Yeah. So Wahlberg's is an inter-African migrant, so it means that it does fly to Central Africa. Oh, we are getting a little bit more detail, but I think he's facing away from us, unfortunately. Or is he? Oh, hello. A little bit mottled. I'd say he's got an upright stance. I'm wondering if he is actually an African hawk eagle. A juvenile battalier. The tail is long enough for it not to be a battalier. Or is that the wing I'm seeing actually? So as we get a little bit... Oh, actually I could have just mistaken that for the wing. Could be a juvenile battalier actually. That is possible actually. I think I'm seeing the other wing. With it being a little bit mottled, say battaliers, they can actually, it takes them about 7 years to get their adult plumage. So if I actually show you in the book, so we've got the adult battaliers here. You can see the wing bars, white, which is, I think someone was saying, possibly a female battalier because of this white, and the juveniles having the brown. And with it being slightly mottled, it could be in between. So this is the juvenile here. So brown. So yeah, as I say, it takes them about 7 years to get their full adult plumage. So as it progresses, as it gets older, it's going to have a little bit of a mixture. So actually, I'm thinking possibly the battalier now, because I think I actually got looking at the wing as a tail. But as we had a slightly better look, I think the wing there, that's what we were actually seeing. So yeah, I'm going to go with the battalier. If anyone else wants to Exquisite bliss. There's so many birds I didn't even know it existed. Well, I'm glad we've actually managed to shed some light on that today. So yes, I am a lot more convinced about that. Being a sub-adult, and I did see a yellow bill, so it did look like a sub-adult battalier. So well done. I forgot who got that. I think that's what it is. I'm happy with that. I hope you guys are at home. Teamwork. James, Richard and Aaron. Definitely teamwork. Well done, guys. So it just goes to show having the sun in the right position also really helps when you're wanting to bird. And if anybody wants to do birding back home, your binoculars are really important. If you have a really wide lens, that actually helps getting a lot more light, so the picture's actually a lot clearer. So these are good, but they're not as good as and getting some with a lot wider lenses, but 10 or 12 magnification is pretty good. Anything over that and it gets a bit wobbly, so you have to make sure you have a good stable place to sit so you can actually watch them nice and steadily. But obviously we've got Craig on camera, so he's able to use the zoom on it, which means I don't have to use my binoculars as much. Cool. Okay, well, let's continue up Cheetah Cut Line. Now we've hopefully solved that mystery. And thank you very much, everybody, for all your input. That is the beauty of live. That really is. I love it. Battalier is a French word, and I remember we had quite a big debate as to what it actually meant, because I think there was a few people coming back saying, no, it can mean magician, it can mean acrobat, so there's several different meanings, but it all seems to be related to this acrobatic flight. So battalier, but I think they were wanting to change its name to a short-tailed snake eagle. I don't know if they have gone through with that or not. But I do remember there used to be a nest around here for the battaliers. So I wonder if the pair are still around, or whether this is the offspring from a different pair. Is that a battalier in the sky there, flying over? Is that going to be easy to get or not really? Yeah, I think it is actually. Yeah. Yeah, unfortunately I think the battalier has just flown, or I think it was the battalier that was flying, flew down behind the trees. So we got some Ellie tracks on the road. See if we've got a nice track for you. So a lot of these Ellie tracks are quite old. They're from this morning. We saw them. I think they would have crossed over south by now. We'll see what we've got. So if you would like to ask any questions this afternoon, hashtag Safari Live, Facebook or YouTube. Our lovely ladies back in FC are ready and waiting to field any questions that you might have this afternoon for us. Hi Atul, welcome on board. And Atul wanting to know who decides on the bird names. Is there some sort of society? And yes, there is to a certain degree, but a lot of these birds, the names actually were given by the explorers and the people that discovered them, and the name changes tend to be agreed upon as perhaps the science gets a little bit better, certainly the reclassification of the birds. Personally, I think the name changes come from because they want people to buy more books. That's what my opinion is. So if you've got your old bird book, you're not going to buy a new one unless the names are all changed. But yeah, as I say, a lot of these names come from the discoverers. I think the Narina trogon, which is a beautiful bird, unfortunately we don't get here, but that one sticks in my mind because the guy who discovered it actually named it after his wife. Oh, brown-headed parrots. I've been hearing them all day, and I was hoping to get them on camera for you, but they have flown off. I'm hoping to find them in the trees. But they've got this really high-pitched squeak or squawk. Hi Lisa, welcome on board this afternoon. Lisa wanting to know what my favourite bird is. It depends on my mood, but one bird that I really enjoy is the fork-tailed drongo. I love how cheeky they are. Now if we find one today, I'll definitely wait for mammals or any kind of animal actually to disturb the grass and wait for any insects to fly up, and they'll swoop down and collect them. And they've joined me on walks with guests, and I actually had one that stood there. We were talking about a tree, and the bird actually flew down. I think I had a grasshopper on my leg or something, as the grasshopper jumped, the bird flew down and caught it like literally that distance from me. But there's another reason why they're so cheeky, but I think it's quite a good question to ask Tristan as well, so I think we should find out from him what his favourite bird is, and I'll tell you when you come back why I love the fork-tailed drongo as well.
Well, Tara, I think you've picked a much easier favourite bird to show everybody, because my favourite bird, unfortunately, we don't see here very much. It does occur sometimes in this area and it has been seen on a few occasions, but it is called a crowned eagle. Now, I'll show you what it looks like in 2 seconds. But it is one of the most powerful eagles in fact, it is probably the most powerful eagle that we have here in South Africa. They are pretty much restricted to rocky areas with forests that are close by, so you'll find them a lot in the sort of Drakensberg areas, the mountains that we see off to our west. You can find them there. Now it's this bird here at the bottom, so there it is over there. It is a beautiful bird. Now I'm going to try and just turn the page so it doesn't have as much glare, but you can see it's got that rusty kind of red head and that heavy barring all over the chest and legs and big broad wings. And the other thing with them is that they've got absolutely massive talons, and these guys are big hunters of monkeys and varying other small mammals. You'll go after duiker and steenbok and all those kind of things, so they're a very powerful bird of prey, and one that I love to see, and unfortunately we don't see too much of here. The reason why I like them so much is because they remind me of when I was a younger kid. When I used to spend time with my grandparents, there was crowned eagles that weren't too far from their house, and we used to see them flying over, and it was always with excitement, and we used to spot them coming over, and we'd come running out to go and see and have a look through the binoculars. And you can see when they're actually flying over here just how red those wings are underneath. So it's a very diagnostic wing pattern, and one that you really can't mistake for anything else out here. Also heavily barred tail, but massive wings that you can see there. So that is my favourite bird. Unfortunately, I think Tara is going, like I said, is going to have a lot more success finding her favourite bird than I am, but I will be super excited if we do find our favourite bird. My favourite bird, should I say. Now, the reason I am not anywhere near where Mvula is or was is because we had tracks for a male and female leopard at Treehouse Dam that was coming northwards. So I've just been checking the northern side, trying to see if there's any sign of them. I can't find any tracks at the moment. Rex and Aubrey have both got their trackers on foot, following those tracks and trying to see where they go. So I would imagine that those tracks must be for Tundi and Tumba. That's what is my first sort of opinion would be, given that Tundi and Tumba were, well, we saw Tumba yesterday afternoon, but Tundi was seen just after Tumba crossed south yesterday afternoon. She was on the southern side on Little Gowrie, and I'm sure it's them that came over, and they've come to Treehouse and then going sort of back northwards, and that's the way they like to go. So I'm checking now quickly on elephant carcass, because I know Tundi loves to walk this particular section. She likes elephant carcass and then towards Chelapan and then into the Mulawati. So I'm just having a little look around here just to see if there isn't any sign. If there's nothing here, then I'll carry on slowly and leave the trackers to do their thing. So Rita, you say, what about the leopards who are mating? Is it not them? Well, Rita, it could very well be them. I know Tingana was involved, but this morning Tingana was sitting up a tree with an impala, well, had an impala until the Nkahuma pride stole it from him and ate it, and he ended up sitting up in the tree and there was no sign of any other leopard with him. And the fact that he was hunting probably gives an indication that he was no longer really actively mating with that female. Also, I know that Tundi was identified as the female on the first time they were seen mating. Well, I think it was Tundi, as from what I gathered on the various social media platforms, and therefore we know that Tundi yesterday was over here and there was no sign of Tingana with her, so it seems as though they've broken apart. But it is possible, it could very well be that Tingana is back with Tundi again and mating after this morning. They've joined up and it could be them, but from what I gather, and I unfortunately haven't seen the tracks, that was Rex that saw them, he was saying to me that it looks like Tundi and Tumba. So difficult to say. We'll have to just try and find them so that we can solve our mystery of who made the footprints. He's back, because then I'll have seen all my favorite leopards in the space of 24 hours, which would be fantastic. So I'm hoping. Amanda, you're wondering if I'm worried about driving this open little vehicle while there's all these wild animals. Well, Amanda, I'm absolutely petrified. Terrified that I'm going to be out here and that there's things that are going to eat me, and they just force me to do this work all the time, and it's the FC girls. They make me get onto this vehicle every afternoon and they tell me that I have to do it, otherwise they're going to beat me with a stick. No, I'm just kidding. We're very fortunate in that the animals in this area luckily have not had too much exposure to poaching and to negative experiences with people, and so generally they've grown up, a lot of them, particularly the territorial animals like lion, leopard and the varying others, with vehicles moving around since they've been small, and they've learned that they've become habituated to the fact that the vehicle is not a major threat to them, so they can see that the vehicle doesn't hurt them, it doesn't steal food from them, and therefore they're not too worried about our presence, and they're not actually very aggressive towards us in any way. And as long as we're respectful with the distance towards them, and we allow them the space to move around, and if they do come close, that's fine, because they've made that choice on their own accord. But as long as we're respectful in distance and we don't try and chase them in any way, generally we're going to be absolutely fine. The animals are more worried about doing their own thing, and they almost see this vehicle as a giant tree that just moves around. That's effectively how it works. So we're not perfectly safe. I mean, there is obviously hazardous moments out here, but for the most part we don't have to stress too much about it, and it's actually pretty stress-free driving around here, I can tell you. Now, I'm going to carry on looking for these two mystery leopards and see who they are, and while we do that, I believe Tara has still got a story to tell all of you, so let's go and hear what she's got to say.
I do indeed, but it's just suddenly occurred to me I could show you a picture, seeing as I have the bird book, showing the falcons and showing that wing shape. Just thought that might be quite nice. So there you go, these are some of the falcons, the peregrine, Lana, and you can see here quite a sickle shaped wing, so you don't see the primaries as much, and that wing shape is really good for nipping in and out of the rock faces and vegetation and things like that. So that's the falcons there. So yes, my little friend, the fork-tailed drongo, so he's only a little bird, he's about this big, but I honestly think they have a sense of humour, and I am gonna carry on driving. Actually, I was going to talk about the termite mound afterwards, but we will find them all over, just so we can keep a lookout for any tracks while we're driving, and any animals as well, because there was quite a lot of animals in the Milwati, so that's why we've come back here, see if we can find any of those animals. So yeah, so if the fork-tailed drongo is out and about with mongoose, especially in the areas where there's meerkats, the drongos have learnt to mimic the alarm call. So if the mongoose are out and about and they find something that the fork-tailed drongo wants to eat, it will give the alarm call so that the mongoose or the meerkats will actually drop what they've got and bolt for the hole. So the drongo flies down and collects the reward. Now, that is intelligence, is it not? I think that is absolutely fantastic. They really are so intelligent. They've even learnt to mimic the pearl-spotted owlet. Now the reason for this I am not sure, because if you do the pearl-spotted owlet call, now see if I've actually got a whistle for this. So, oh no, I don't have a wet enough whistle, hold on. So if you do that and you do it very well, all the birds that are in the area will actually come and try and mob the pearl-spotted owlet, because the pearl-spotted owlet is actually able to reach inside nests and pull out chicks and eat them. Ah, we have Nyala on the right here. So it's not a bird that other birds like to have around. So I still haven't worked out why the drongo would like to be mobbed by other birds. I still haven't worked that one out, but you do hear them actually mimicking the pearl-spotted owlet late in the evening or late in the afternoon. And as I say, birds that do actually mimic other birds can be fairly spot on, but if you know your bird calls very well, you can actually catch them out, because they'll either miss a note or they won't do the whole thing, or a note will be slightly wrong. There'll be something just not quite right, and you can be fairly comfortable that it's actually a mimic. She was just standing really pretty, and then she decided, nope, I'm going to move. It is amazing, isn't it, Debbie? It just goes to show that just what happens in the bush, that it just goes beyond what you can imagine. This beautiful lady making her way through the bush. She usually would be part of a herd, so I'm wondering if the rest of the herd are already down there. She doesn't look like she's pregnant, so I don't think she would have gone to give birth. So they can break away from the herd to do that. She's been very cautious. You can see she's slowed down, but her ears are forward. The nose is forward, so she can get as much information as she possibly can. So the ears forward, so she can hear anything that she might walk into. Nose, just obviously if the breeze is bringing up any scent. But I do wonder if the rest of the herd are down there, maybe. Mr. O'Kellen, yeah, the stripes are beautiful, aren't they? And also unique to each animal. So if you took the time, you could actually ID each animal, and the stripe pattern is different on both sides of the animal, so you would have to have both sides. Same with the kudu, same with the leopard, same with the giraffe, same with the zebra. Anything that has a pattern like that, you could potentially ID. So we're just running alongside the Milwati now. Say the sun is still pretty high. It is quite a pleasant temperature. I think it was about 25 degrees Celsius. So still fairly warm. Just checking any termite mounds, see if anyone's got their heads poking out of them. I say reading the bush paper as well. See if there's any sign of movement, in the hope that we can actually catch up with some cats for you. Jacqueline's favourite is the black-bellied bustard, and it's quite a big bird, sort of stands about this sort of height, but it's got quite a good display, and it does sound like a cork popping, a pork cocking. a cork popping. So it brings its head in and it goes, it's almost like it's winding itself up. And then after a few moments, it then goes, it is brilliant. Black belly bustard. Hi Cedric, or Zedric, I think it was Zedric. Welcome on board. And Zedric saying that it's a fairly new birder, and how does he learn the bird calls? I actually had a CD, and the people who actually introduced the CD, I think there was about 15 bird calls, and they gave a little introduction to the bird calls to help you remember. So you quite often hear us say that they remind us like the black-bellied bustard sounds like a cork popping. Then a lot of the birds may say something. So for me, the brown-hooded kingfisher says, "Pity for you, pity for you." Some of the francolins say things like, "I'll drink your beer," or beer and cognac, things like that. So it's trying to fit words that you will remember and will remind you. And if you start with the easy ones and then build up, you can almost kind of go, okay, well I know the easy ones, so I know it's not that, and then you can try and match it up to something else. There's also a really good bird program, I think it's the Roberts for the South African birds, and it's got games on there as well, so it will play the calls and you've got to try and match the call to the bird. It takes a long time, and to be honest I've been very bad because I know a lot about South African birds, but you put me in Britain, I don't know which birds are calling. I need to do the same thing in the UK, I need to put the same amount of time in. And repeating the bird calls as well. You might hear us saying, aha! We have there we go. Okay, so which bird is this? Hashtag Safari Live, YouTube, Facebook, which bird is this? Quite a few of them there, that's lovely. And I'm also seeing some antelope. Just underneath the tree there, I don't know if you're going to be able to see it. Another antelope there who had just heard as we stopped. There we go. So a brief look at the male. So this is the male Nyala. So I'll see if there's anyone coming through with those birds up there. I think there was a question that came through. I just missed that coming through. Okay, so we'll have the guesses first, then we'll have the question then. Brown-headed? Jenny, brown-headed what? Almost. Maybe not, no. Oh, brown-headed pigeon, brown-headed pigeon. Not quite, but the right kind of bird though. Well done. Ah, many of you getting the green pigeon. Well done everybody. It was the green pigeon. Don't get to see them very often, but we've been lucky enough to see them a couple of times today. Our pigeons are quite interesting because they will actually feed their young with milk from the crop. And apparently there's very few other birds that actually do that. Flamingos one and emperor penguins. But if you think, other birds will actually feed their young with grubs. So yeah, quite unusual for them to produce milk in the crop and feed them with that. Very nutritious, very high in protein, antibodies. Okay, Bree, welcome on board. Bree asking something about how many species, but I'm missing what type of species. Oh, parrot species. Oh, that one's gonna get my brain working. Parrot species in the sands. Oh, we've got some impala here. I know we've definitely got the brown-headed parrot. Maybe some of the viewers can actually help me out, because my head is a little bit rusty on the parrot species that we've seen. I can't think of any other species that we've seen here. Oh, how lovely is that? Impala basking in the golden glow. So yeah, if anybody wants to help me out with that one, remind me. Because as I say, I can only think of the brown-headed parrot. So one of the most common antelope in South Africa, the impala. And I think they're looking in pretty good condition actually. So we've got a group of females, and there is a ram that's just going to come into the shot now. There we go. But he's not a very old ram. But we are starting to see them gearing up for that short rut. So we are starting to see the females being by themselves. We did see one group that was mixed, but generally speaking, when they're rutting, the males won't tolerate any other males with the females. So you will have the territorial rams and try and herd the females into the centre of their territory to try and make sure that they get the mating opportunities for any females that got missed during the first or the main rut in March, April time. So the offspring for this will drop 7 months later. So yeah, probably around the March time. March, April. Thanks, Aaron. Also saying just the brown-headed parrot from this area, if he remembers correctly. Yeah, so Brian also agreeing, saying the mayor's parrot also found north. Yeah, I'm just checking the bird book as well. And it is, yeah, also seeing the mayor's parrot further north. So I think it is just the brown-headed. Yep. Maybe my brain's not as rusty as I thought it was. Oh wow, Deborah. Do you know, it's actually been quite fascinating to share this with some of the newer presenters as well, because obviously back in the day we would actually do the whole 3 hours just one presenter. So I think that's possibly why I do talk a lot because I'm so used to having to fill the time. So it's really nice to actually sort of swap between different vehicles, and I think it's great for you guys, and you get different personalities and you get different perspectives on things as well. So I think it's absolutely fantastic having the two vehicles out, and obviously for us we can cover the ground as well and try and get as much information and different things for you guys to see each day. But I think that's one of the big things. Some of you might notice it's actually a lot quieter on drive, and I think for me it took me a good day to actually get used to having both the game drive and Final Control in my ear. So that's quite an interesting one, I can tell you, when everybody is chatting. So you might have seen I missed a couple of questions, and it's often because the game drive is also going as well. But I think those are the two biggest differences that I've found. But I hope everybody is enjoying the new format, and I think actually linking into Mara as well, it really just blows my mind. And I just think, you know, what Safari Live do to bring the wildlife to you. And as I say, sometimes we get a slightly quieter drive, but then we get to see the magic of the smaller things, you know, like the tracks. And oh, we got the hornbill in the tree there. And as I say, we just don't know what's going to happen. And I just think this is just so special. And I hope if you're new viewers and you're enjoying the drive, you tell your friends. And I think the fact that you can actually ask us questions, as you see, you can ask us anything. And sometimes we have a wonderful debate as to what might be true or not. And we all learn. So even us as presenters, we learn constantly from the viewers, from each other. We share each other's stories as well. And that's how we can really start to understand what goes on in the natural world. So red-billed hornbill. So I'm just hearing that apparently they might have seen Tingana south of Gowrie, Maine. So there might be some tracks I think people are finding around that area. So we're at Twin Dams now, so we're going to maybe have a scratch around here and just see if there is anything that's around this side. And just while we're talking about the old days as well, I must admit I'd like to just I think mention the people who are no longer with us. I did see we've got the plaques upon the wall outside FC, and I know they're going to be staying with us. They are with us in our heart, so they're with us on drive, I'm sure. Especially I saw those Rosie, Lady in Red, Minerva, and many more names who have supported Wild Earth and Safari Live right the way back from when it first started. And it really is, it's a big community. Everybody loves the nature, loves interacting and loves learning about the nature, and I think that's such a special community. So thank you very much everybody for being part of it. It really is fantastic. So I think there has been a few gremlins out this afternoon, as unfortunately it happens with the live. We can do hopefully get rid of some of the gremlins, and I think we are going to cross over to, I think, was it the Mara? I'm hoping I'll get confirmation of that for you. Nope, to Tristan. Ah, okay, so we're still battling with gremlins in the Mara. But Tristan, I think he might have something for you.
I wish I did, Tara. I've been trying to find something for you guys desperately, but it seems as though our leopards are all over the place. There's tracks for males, there's tracks for females, there's tracks for young males, young females, so it seems like everybody had a party around Treehouse Dam during the day today, and they've all then just gone their separate ways. So the tracks for the big male go straight south into Little Gowrie, but we know that Tingana and Mvula are on the western side of Triple M, so I think maybe he went into Little Gowrie and round, so those are not going to work. But the freshest tracks we found was for a young female, which I surmise is Shongile, just from where they've come from. They came from sort of between Zoe's and Quarantine, and they went south along Rebecca's and then down past the old Hyena Den or Philemon's cut line and towards Treehouse Dam. Now that's a route that Shongile loves to walk, so I thought that I would check around there, but there's lots of trackers on foot, and so I'm going to leave them rather to track and not drive around too much, because otherwise we squash tracks and get in their way a little bit. So while I've left that to carry on, we've just decided to come check up on Zoe's, check around power lines, and the reason why we're coming to check all of these things is because the Nkuhuma Pride apparently was slowly moving east this morning towards Triple M, as well as obviously Mvula was around. So while the trackers are busy, I thought might as well just come and have a little look up this side. It is a sort of beautiful afternoon and it's a nice area to drive. There's lots of open sections and it's very pretty this side of the world, so it's worth just coming and having a little look. But it would be nice to get a set of feet that match all of these footprints and find out exactly who is walking around, because there's been a number of different individuals clearly walking between Treehouse Dam and the main road. And I don't think it would be Hosano, because well, we know that Hosano was on that kill this morning and it's a very long way from where Chitwa is all the way up to this side or to Treehouse. It is a long way, and I don't think he would have walked that far. So I think it's probably a combination of Tandi, Tamba, Shongile and Tingana. That's what I would imagine all these tracks are for. The thing is that I don't think either Tara or myself and none of the Djuma vehicles drove around Treehouse this morning, so it's difficult to gauge just how fresh those tracks are. The young female track that we had seemed to be on top of a lot of the bird prints and a lot of, in fact, on top of the elephant tracks that I had from the elephants that I had yesterday afternoon. So we know that they must have been either during the night or this morning, but they're not fresh where they're from this afternoon. So I'd imagine that that leopard could be anywhere by now as well. So it's going to be a bit of a struggle to find them, but that's okay. There's lots of other things to look at and lots of other things to see, so I'm pretty sure we will find something at the end of the day. Maybe it's Tingana's last minute leopard day. It's been so long since I've seen Tingana, maybe even forgotten what he looks like. It's been ages since I've seen him, and he seems to have been quite elusive of late and arriving well after dark on Djuma, which hopefully will not be the trend going forward. He needs to start showing himself again. I think he's been a bit preoccupied though with lots of other things. So I believe a lot of you are wondering why we consider Mvula old in comparison to Tingana when it's only a year's difference. Well, I think that there's two parts to that. One is that unfortunately Mvula is no longer a territorial male, so I suppose the connotation of no longer being territorial and being ousted and being nomadic kind of comes hand in hand with age, and so that's why I suppose people refer to him as a little bit older. The other side of it is that a year in a leopard's life at that stage of their life, so between 12 and 13, is quite a long time for a leopard. Remember that most male leopards are only living to about that age on average in this particular section of the world. So, you know, when a year is a much longer period than one would have thought he would have been able to survive as a nomadic male. We would have thought maybe Tingana bumped into him, or we would have had a situation where maybe being nomadic he's walked into another male's territory, and you end up with a sort of difficult part for him to defend himself and to stay alive. And so that's why we consider that. And like I say, 13 years old for a male is old, and Tingana himself is also an older male, and I'm sure in the next year we'll start to see him aging a lot more and those ears getting a little bit more tatty. And I think it's also the way that Mvula looks. He's a much lighter coloured leopard. He looks a lot more grey in coloration, and his ears are definitely a lot more tatty. So it's more that than the fact that he's actually really ancient. He's not an ancient male, but he is old for males in this particular area. What we do have, though, coming out into the open area is quite a few impalas, which is fairly typical for this time of the day. As we're starting to get a little bit later in the day, so these impalas start to move and start to head into more open sections. They've spent their day feeding in thickets and getting the nutrients that they need and staying out of the way of the sun. And now as it starts to get later and the sun starts to go down, it's going to get dark, and it makes much more sense to be in an open clearing where they are now than to be in the big dense thickets where they could be hunted by the likes of Mvula and Tingana and all the other leopards that have been moving around in this area. They really are one of the prettiest animals at late afternoon and early morning. Their colour seems to really shine when they are out and about and in the sun at this time of the day. You can see one of the little ones from December, January time. It's amazing how fast they grow and how big they get. Always impresses me at how quickly they grow up. Oh, a little itch as well to sort out. Now I wouldn't be surprised, given the way that the wind is blowing, that Mvula would bypass these impalas completely without actually even knowing they're here. The wind is not blowing in the right direction for him, so he would have been, this morning we left him to our northwest, and these impalas are, so like I say, southeast of him, but the wind is pushing from south to north now, so it's blowing the opposite way really, and it's not actually going anywhere near where he is. It would need to shift quite a lot to the west for him to be able to pick up the scent of these guys, so they're actually alright. I would imagine that any impalas that are around Sydney's Dam area, or maybe just to our west slightly on Impala Plains, are going to have a lot more problems than what these guys are going to have this evening if Mvula does decide to come onto Djuma. What is quite good is that the wind that is blowing now might bring the Nkuhuma Pride slowly this way. It's a wind that might cause them to start walking a little bit to the east and try and see if they can't find something to the southeast of them, and then be able to pick up any scent there. So hopefully that'll bring them across. The problem with the Nkuhumas and where they are now, they're pretty much, I would say, about 200 meters, 300 meters south of where Mvula was this morning. And that means that from there, One-Eyed Pan straight across to Sydney's Dam is normally the route that they take, and it's a very quick route, and it's one that if they decide to get up tonight, they'll cross that within a few minutes and won't really be on Djuma for too long. So we need to hope that they're going to walk more south along Vuyatela access towards Quarantine side than to actually head straight sort of east, northeast. But it must have been something quite sort of attracting this morning. I wonder if Tingana's kill didn't attract Mvula in, because Tingana, Mvula and Nkuhumas were all within 500 meters of each other this morning, and they were all kind of taking time around there, and there was that carcass that was there, so I'm sure Tingana's kill attracted Mvula in and the lions, and they all then just distributed out accordingly from that area. I need to pay careful attention where we are now, because this is roughly where Mvula would have been to my western side, so where the sun is setting at the moment. That would be roughly where he would have been sitting and hopefully come across. Now I believe Tara, luckily for her and unluckily for me, has found her favorite bird, so let's go across quickly before it flies away.
Yeah, this one's been a little bit flighty, but for those of you who don't know what a fork-tailed drongo looks like, this is it. So you can see, hopefully, the long black tail. It was actually sat in a better position, but then the impala moved, which are what is following. So then it moved to see what they were going to disturb for it, just as I was saying before. So hopefully going to see him in action. As I say, one of my favourite birds, just because they are just so cheeky and they're so bold, and they will just take that chance. Occasionally I've seen them sitting on the back of an animal, but generally speaking they'll sit in a tree. There we go, has someone found something for it? There we go. So never too far away. And I've also seen a pair of drongos mob a giraffe. Now it looked like they actually had a nest in a tree, and the giraffe wanted to go and feed from the tree, and they didn't want their nest being disturbed, so the pair of them actually flew around the head of the giraffe, and they actually made the giraffe back off and walk away. Fearless. So